love look, I haven't washed my hair in a few days, so this is what we're going with. I'm gonna do it after I film this. I don't have enough time to wash my hair and then wait for it to dry and then film. So we're doing it before. Welcome to the April wrap-up, where I did read less books in general than every other month this year so far, but I read more pages and second most amount of hours listened in an audiobook so far. So there's that. I read a lot of longer books, so not as many total, but like the amount of pages was still high, and so was the number of hours. Good times, good times. Before I pull up any of my normal stats stuff, I want to just point out the amount of pages I read every month or every day in the month. There's like a graph, a story graph. I will put it up because like, yeah. Also that happened. But yes, my computer's over here. I'm gonna be looking at it for the stats stuff and reading off my list for the books and whatnot. I already said that I read more pages and whatnot, but I read for a total of 11 books DNF to 1, a total of 3,942 pages, 77 hours via audiobook, an average rating of a 3.32. Alright, so I can see a little bit better. One of them was a reread, and 3 of them were written by an author of color. 2 different authors, 3 books. For genre, we have 1 erotic, 8 fantasy, 2 romance, and 1 sci-fi, which is probably something to do with the less books read total in the month, because I switched from reading mostly romance the past 3 months to reading mostly fantasy. So you know, that may have something to do with it. So for format, we have 1 straight up audiobook, 5 straight up ebooks, 2 straight up physical books, and 4 mixed media. I believe 2 of those were physical audio, and then the other 2 were ebook audio. I can not on the top of my head remember what the other ebook audio one is, but I'm pretty sure I only read 2 physical audio. So for audience, 2 were adult, 1 was new adult. I didn't know what to label. It was labeled as YA technically on Goodreads, like people labeled it as YA on Goodreads, but it wasn't on Storygraph, and I agreed it didn't give me YA, but it also didn't give me like straight up adult, so like I went with the new adult. I'll talk about it when I get to it. And 9 were YA. That also probably has something to do with the list amount of books total. So it's later in the day, if you can't tell from the sunshine from the windows. Some things happen. I wasn't much into this. I could have completely restarted, but no. I already filmed so much of this. I mean so much of this, like 9 minutes, whatever, who cares. But here we are with freshly washed hair. It is actually during the day. It was raining this morning, which is why I wanted to do it this morning, but it's fine. Also my mother is home, so like I may have to pause and whatnot. So if there's weird cuts, that's why. Also, if you hear a door closing at the end of the last clip, that was my mother going home. It's fine. If I remember properly, the stat I left off of was whether or not I've read from the author before. Yes, because I was talking about how YA books and a lot more of them than all my other months actually combined, which is funny. But yeah, 2 debuts. One of them is like a reread, but technically still the debut. 4 were by authors I've read before. And 6 were new to me. And I think, if I remember properly from my like yearly stats, the amount of from authors I've read from before and new to me is exactly even throughout the whole entire year. I think it's like 28, with 4 from debut authors, or debuts. So you know, it's a good time. So for the ratings, there were 2 5 stars, 2 4 stars, a 3.5, a 3, a 2.5, a 2, a 1.5, and a DNF. Good times, good times. And yeah, I might as well just go into the books that I've read and start talking about them. The first one was for the weekend reading vlog. It was The Princess Companion. Yeah, it was a thing. Listen, it's a good thing I managed to get my hands on the audiobook. It was okay. I wasn't expecting the greatest thing ever. And I have heard from reading reviews by the person who I learned about these books from that they get better the further in you get. So, like, I'm intrigued to get further into them. Also, like, the fact that, like, very few of these are typical retellings that you're expecting. Like, I think there's a Cinderella later on, and whatnot. But you get, like, the Goose Girl in here. This is Princess and Pea. So, like, that really intrigues me. Like, the ones that you don't expect, right? But this was like retellings month, so be prepared for me to talk about a lot of retellings. The second book I read was The Beauty and the Beast by Elena Albertson, which was this short little thing. I'm pretty sure I started skimming it. It was for my Beauty and the Beast vlog. I had a hair in my mouth. But basically, this was the only modern Beauty and the Beast retelling I read. Well, kind of. And he was like the beast, as in he was pretty badly beaten up and burnt from landing, or I guess he was technically landing, but he purposely landed on a grenade to protect people and whatnot in the army, and he is pretty like scarred from it physically, but also emotionally. And apparently the best way the main character can fix this is with her vagina. It was not good. I didn't like it. I rated it 2 stars. That's a lie. I rated The Princess Companion 2 stars, and I rated that one 1.5. I'm so smart. I'm so good at this. I could tell I'm tired. Yeah. And then we go into the one book I read that wasn't a retelling in the whole entire month. That was from NetGalley, and also a debut, one of the debuts, which is Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker. The way I instantly knew that. I got the audiobook from NetGalley. Yeah, it was great. 4 stars. It's got gays. It's got a very interesting magic system. I really love the magic system. You've got attempted murder via magic, and like the book starts with the twins. There's the 2 main characters are twins, and their mother's sick and dying, and they learn that she has been targeted with magic, and that's why she's been dying. And so they're trying to figure out who was killing their mother. That also is connected to murder decades earlier, in which their, I believe, grandmother was the assumed killer of this one girl, and then a bunch of other killings happened because of it. And it's New Orleans, so it's a lot of people of color versus white people. White people, it was very much an allegory for gun control at some points, with the politics of it, but there's like white magic, and some people in the white magic community are very much against generational magic, which is what generally the people of color in New Orleans use. So you can see where that goes. There was, listen, this one scene at the end where revenge may have been gotten, and I have learned recently that Tauruses are one of the pettiest signs. So my petty Taurus life was thriving. It was a great book. I loved it. Highly do recommend. And then A Beauty and the Beast retelling that wasn't for the vlog, but actually for the podcast, was A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Camille. I can't pronounce the last name. I tried. 3.5 stars. I mean, it was the best one we've read for a while for the podcast. Well, a buddy read for the podcast, but yeah, no, it was fine. I liked it. Technically it's partially modern, but also partially not. It's weird. The main character is kidnapped by this knight for this prince who turns into the beast at the end of every season, who has been cursed by a sorceress, and he has killed his whole entire family, most of the people from the castle, all this stuff, and he has one whole season to get a girl to fall in love with him, or the whole system restarts, and whatnot. And she is the one who gets kidnapped this time. Accidentally, he went for a different girl, and she sees this girl like drugged and being kidnapped, and so she goes to help her, and then she accidentally gets kidnapped instead. It was iconic. There's so nice disability It's a good time. I do plan to continue the series, despite the fact that I'm very scared. Very, very scared. And then I read the first physical book, which is the first one for the Arthurian vlog, Avalon High. Honestly, don't know how I rated it 2.5. I really feel like after the fact it should be 2, but whatever. I'm keeping it for now. I just finished this vlog, so I should know my thoughts about this because I just edited it. But basically, Ellie, just moved into this town. Her parents are both professors in ye olden times mythology type stuff, so they know a lot about art, Camelot and Arthur and all that fun stuff, right? I knew the movie as a kid. I really loved the movie. Not similar to the movie. I see why they changed some things. There is like one plot hole in the movie because of how they changed things. And so it's not a plot hole in this, but that's fine. I still prefer the movie. I don't think I like Meg Cabot's writing, the way she writes teenagers. Not my favorite, especially early 2000s teenagers, you know, not my favorite. Hear me out. Just let Elaine hang out in the pool. That's and also the way that everyone thought she was like the real Elaine, and she's like, I'm not the real Elaine. And I guessed who she really was so early on. But yeah, the most beneficial thing this did was, one, at the beginning of each chapter, I'm trying to find one, there was part of the poem that the original Elaine story comes from, which is what they named her after, that poem, right? But also, which, like, she's completely valid in her complaint about her parents naming her after a girl who kills herself after a guy turns her down, right? But because of that, I looked up the original, and then that helped me for some other books, because Elaine is an important character in another one of the books I read for that vlog that I will talk about in a bit. But yeah, I read this one 2.5 stars. After that was The Beast by Jenica Snow, which is a novella that is a monster smut, but also Be the Beast, right? Basically her father gambles all their money away to Gaston, like, constantly. And she tries to do what she can to, like, make it so they can survive, but basically he sells her off accidentally. The Beast has been, like, watching her and, like, really likes her, so he sends in one of his guys who works at the castle. He's, like, very few people who work at the castle, who, like, aren't scared of him and, like, respect him and all this stuff. So he sends this one guy in to make a deal with her father to basically, be like, hey, I will pay off your debts to this guy and then some, but you have to give me what I want, or my master what he wants. And he instantly agreed without asking what that was, and it was her. So he accidentally sold off his own daughter. She is rightfully upset. Eventually they bang. I don't know how it got from point A to B, but you know, that's fine. He straight up bodies some people and then they bang in the woods. It was fine. The tail was used. 3 stars. Not the worst thing I've read, honestly. I mean, I played Barbarians. Much worse in my opinion. So, you know, yeah. And then my favorite in that vlog, I guess technically, was Of Beast and Beauty. I do want to continue the series. The next one is a Cinderella. Intriguing. But basically in this one, there is a family and an evil adoptive mother who adopted all these magical girls, and she was wronged by the kings of, like, all these kingdoms at one point. And so she has raised her daughters to be, like, powerful sorcerers and witches as well. And they, her plan is to basically set them up to take down these kingdoms for her, to get her revenge, enact her revenge. And in this one, she sends the main character, whose name I don't remember, I think she goes by Rose at some points, right? To marry the prince of this one kingdom. Basically, she made a deal with the king, I think, where, if she gets what she wants, and she gave him a prince or something like that. And then, so what she wants is for him to marry her daughter. He instantly assumes that she's an ugly hag. It's a lot of, like, him just instantly mistreating her, as well as, like, literally everyone else. Almost instantaneously mistreats her. Like, he's all like, oh, my damn wife just constantly wanting new dresses, and all this stuff, and, like, he literally starves her, and she needs new dresses because all the dresses she has for a princess, are the dresses for the woman he was supposed to marry, because She's forced to marry him on the day of his wedding to someone else, which are all too small for her. So she has to like redo all her own clothes. He doesn't know what she looks like, so she like just escapes her room a few times by pretending to be a maid to get food. When at one point at their own wedding night they make out and she realizes that he's him, and she's like, dude, at one point she tells him like, hey, hear me out. I thought that maybe I didn't want to marry you, maybe I was forced into this too. And apparently that's like the biggest shock ever. Who would not want to marry Prince? Answer her. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's like a beast in the village that she's trying to help take down. A lot of suspicious stuff with members of the family almost like being killed and whatnot. So people instantly assume it's her. So he makes a deal with her where she helps figure it out. And then she'll leave. They end up falling in love, I guess. She ends up pregnant. I didn't even know they banged. It started out great, and then it turned sideways really fast. I would have been fine if she went full evil sorcerer and just started killing people for the way they treated her. Because yeah, at one point, one of the knights just like is like, hey, I'm looking for this girl, which is her as the maid, because he falls in love with her as the maid, and he wants to. The way he wants to bang her as the maid, but doesn't know that her as the maid is actually her. And so he sends this one night to get the girl, and she's not there. She's like, look in my tent. And so he just destroys the whole entire tent with all her crap, like everything she owns. And he's like, oh, sorry, I'll pay for you to get new stuff. And then forgets, so she has to go off on her own to get it. And then he's like, why would you do that? And she's like, I need clothes. Like, hear me out. And he's like, oh, sorry. I would have been fine if she went full evil sorceress. It would have been so much better. But yeah, that was the thing. I read 3 stars. Another 3-star was The Camelot Betrayal, by Kirsten Wright. I read the first book in January. Well, finally finished it in January. It took me, I think, something like 57 days or something like that to read the first book. It was fine. I thankfully found the audiobook. It felt very pointless middle book syndrome type thing, where a lot of it was just side quests or repetitiveness from the first book. The main conflict in it, not actually conflict, and you figure out it's not actually a conflict at like 75% of the way through. Kind of stopped the same place we stopped in the first one, kind of similar thing. So like kind of feels pointless, so 3 stars. It was fine, I guess. Once in Future is a book that I DNF'd. I got to 10% of it. 3 pages in, knew it wasn't for me. The writing style, I can't put words into why I hated it. I just know I did. But I did get to 10%, read the first few chapters. I also don't like the characters. The characters were also kind of the worst. I don't understand any of their decisions. And the idea that Merlin is supposed to be this all-knowing guy who's like lived through all these years where every once in a while the world needs a new Arthur, so it creates one. He's woken when they're awoken and pull the sword out. And every time he's awoken, he's a little bit younger. And this is like the 43rd Arthur, right? But like, because he keeps on getting younger, he's like 16 or something. So he acts like he's 16. And look, but he has the memories and knowledge of like a thousands-year-old guy, but he's acting like he's 16, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I don't understand how it was supposed to be lighthearted. The writing style was like, oh, lighthearted. And I'm like, genocide. Hunting down a whole entire race. Evil space Amazon. You know, I was so hopeful, and whatnot, but no, it wasn't good. And that's fine. Thankfully for me, the next 3, or the last 3, technically, are all physical books, so good for editing me. The next one, I reread Legend Board. Yeah, this was a good time. This is also technically her debut, so it's technically the second debut in that list, but like, it's also a reread for me. Still 5 stars. It's great. I love it. I re-annotated it, because I changed up the annotating style, for the second one, because I didn't like the highlighter I used in this. It was too dark. I couldn't see the text underneath. And also I got like new highlighters and pens that are both erasable. So I went through and did that, color-coded my highlights and all that. Had a good time. Great book. That's all. The one that I'm very glad I read Avalon High just so that I knew about Elaine is Half Second Shadows, which is a book that I rated 4 stars, about a character named Elaine. Same general idea where she takes her own life after Lancelot betrays her with Gwen and whatnot. But also in this, Elaine is a seer. She can see the future, especially in her dreams. It starts instantly. It goes with like content warnings about self-harm and stuff like that for obvious reasons. And then first chapter, 1 page long, and it's about the first ever seer dream she ever had, which is the one where she dies and how she chooses to drown. And so because of that, she has like fear of water for obvious reasons. She is technically part of this crew with Gwen, Lancelot, and Morgana to help Arthur become the king of Camelot, so that the magic world can be legal again and all this stuff and peace. But also, like, throughout the book, she is trying to make decisions that affect the future based off of what she's seen. And as she's doing them, things are becoming more solidified in her dreams and whatnot. And we get, like, it flips back and forth a lot between, like, stuff from the past, stuff from the current day that's happening, and stuff from her dreams that are the future. And, like, I don't think I'm doing a good job of explaining this, but, like, her, the things she's doing and the decisions she's making them is based off of dreams. So then it goes into the dreams, but also, like, things are happening because of things that happened in the past. So it describes stuff in the past when she was on Avalon. It's a really good book. I'm doing a bad job describing it, but yeah, it's very melancholy, and dark and sad because, like, she's trying to change the future, and save Arthur and everyone and all this stuff, but also she's making decisions that strengthen these, and we know that there's a very low chance, like, the chances of her being able to change it are very, 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 very low, and all this stuff. And then the thing at the end happened. I totally cried at the end. It's great. I am going to one day reread this and annotate it because there were so many great lines, especially whenever Lancelot would be like, I love you so much, sometimes I feel like it's gonna kill me. And literally in her mind, she's like, and I know it will kill me. And then, like, he's all like, I've never let you drown. Don't you know this? And she's like, in her head, like, yes, but one day you'll be the reason I drown. And it reminds me of Addie LaRue, right? Like, it's great. Other than the Tracy Dion's, kind of the best book I read this whole entire month. But then, of course, I read Bloodmark for the first time. The sequel. I still don't know if this is a duology or trilogy. Some places say duology, some places say trilogy. I don't know. I changed up the tab colors. It's based off of what part I'm reading. Curl it with little sticky notes where I have thoughts on plot stuff. Which is something I did do in the first one when I first read it, where at the end of each part I would put down all my theories and thoughts and whatnot on plot stuff. But I did it throughout, and there's only 3. Yeah, this is great. I'm not gonna go much into it because, like, it's a sequel. But I love Cell, and sometimes I recognize I only finished this yesterday. Sometimes I just think about the time that Bree and Cell made out for like 4 pages, and that was all I got of the happy stuff before it went back to crazy chaos shit going down. But yeah, this is great. Also 5 stars. And yeah, that was the last book I read this whole month. That was it. I didn't read many books themselves, but a lot of pages, because, like, if you can't tell, this is a chunker. So was that the Legend board is $4.90. My copy is, so, like, they're chunky books. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, that's everything I read in April. I don't think I have anything else to say. Go watch my TBR because no one did for May. The next video that comes out, other than a read with me, where I am probably either reading one of these 3. I think this one was in like 1 or 2 of them, and then about half of them were done with this one, and the other half were done with this one, so that's fine. But yes, Read With Me is on Wednesdays. Though I think this Read With Me will be on Saturday. And then Wednesday one, right? And then the weekend reading vlog will be next weekend, not this coming up weekend, but the weekend after that. So stay tuned for that. I don't know what's gonna be yet, but yeah. That's it. And until the next video.